It was a cold spring night in 2008 when the small town of Marshall, Minnesota, became the epicenter of a chilling mystery that continues to baffle investigators to this day. The story of Brandon Swanson, a young man who vanished into thin air, is a haunting enigma that leaves questions unanswered and the community on edge. Brandon Swanson was a 19-year-old college student with dreams of a bright future. On May 14, 2008, he attended a party in Canby, Minnesota, to celebrate the end of the semester. Like any other college student, Brandon relished the chance to unwind and have a good time with his friends. At around 1 a.m., Brandon left the party and headed for home. As he drove through the rural roads of southwestern Minnesota, his car veered off a gravel road and became stuck in a ditch. Determined to get back on track, he called his parents for assistance. Their phone conversation became crucial to understanding the events that unfolded. Brandon told his parents that he was near a place called Taunton and described his location. However, in the middle of their conversation, he suddenly exclaimed, "Oh shit!" followed by the sound of the call abruptly ending. Concerned, his parents tried to call him back, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Brandon's family immediately contacted the authorities, initiating a search that would last for weeks. Volunteers combed the area and search parties scoured the landscape, but there was no sign of Brandon or his car. It was as though he had disappeared without a trace. The search was complicated by the fact that Brandon's description of his location was not entirely accurate. The authorities traced his last cell phone ping to a tower in the Taunton area, but his exact whereabouts remained a mystery. The rural landscape was filled with dense forests, winding roads, and small bodies of water, making it even more challenging to pinpoint his location. The circumstances of the call have perplexed investigators and armchair detectives alike. How could a young man suddenly vanish in the middle of a conversation with his parents? What had caused him to exclaim, "Oh shit," before the line went dead? Despite extensive searches, the only clue that emerged in the following months was the discovery of Brandon's car, parked in an area that had already been searched thoroughly. It was a disturbing development that raised more questions than answers. In the years that followed, various theories emerged to explain Brandon's disappearance. Some believed he may have encountered foul play, while others suggested that he might have become disoriented and lost in the wilderness. There were even theories about an accident or a fall that incapacitated him. Complicating the investigation was the fact that Brandon's phone was never recovered. In the absence of concrete evidence, speculation ran rampant, and many of the leads went cold. The search for Brandon Swanson continued for years, with occasional breaks to reevaluate evidence and explore new avenues. Despite the tireless efforts of law enforcement, he remained elusive, a ghost haunting the memories of his loved ones. The mystery of Brandon's disappearance has had a profound impact on his family, the town of Marshall, and those who have followed the case. It is a chilling reminder of how, in an age of constant connectivity, someone can vanish without a trace, leaving behind only questions and speculation. To this day, the whereabouts of Brandon Swanson remain unknown, and the circumstances of that fateful night in May 2008 continue to confound investigators. The small town of Marshall, once known for its quiet serenity, is now forever marked by the haunting question: what happened to Brandon Swanson? The year was 1970, and the picturesque town of South Lake Tahoe, California, was known for its stunning landscapes and serene beauty. But that tranquility was shattered when Donna Lass, a 25-year-old nurse, mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a sense of unease that still lingers in the town's collective memory. Donna Lass was a vibrant young woman working at the South Lake Tahoe Medical Center. She was known for her dedication to her profession, her warm personality, and her radiant smile. But on the evening of September 6, 1970, Donna finished her shift and disappeared, never to be seen again. It was believed that sinister telephone calls had been claiming that Donna Lass had been called out of town due to a family illness. However, no sinister call was ever made to her landlord, and it cannot be confirmed whether any misleading call was ever made either. The circumstances surrounding Donna's disappearance are both enigmatic and unsettling. Her absence was discovered when a fellow nurse arrived for her shift the next morning and found Donna's belongings, including her purse and work uniform, neatly placed in her office. It was as though she had vanished into thin air. What makes Donna's case particularly baffling is that she lived in an apartment complex adjacent to the medical center. She could have easily walked home after her shift, yet there were no signs that she had made it back to her apartment. Her car was parked outside, and nothing seemed amiss except for her inexplicable absence. The authorities launched an extensive search operation, but the initial days turned up no leads. It was as if Donna had been swallowed by the night, leaving no trace of her whereabouts. Foul play was suspected, and rumors of a possible abduction swirled through the town. Donna's case took an even more chilling turn when, nearly 3 years later, a letter arrived at the San Francisco Chronicle. The anonymous writer claimed responsibility for Donna Lass's disappearance and implied that she was just one of their victims. The letter read, "She's not the first and she won't be the last." The letter's authenticity and the identity of the sender remain a subject of debate and mystery to this day. Some believe it was the work of a deranged individual seeking attention, while others wonder if it could have been written by the person responsible for Donna's vanishing. Donna's disappearance has also been linked to another infamous unsolved case, the Zodiac Killer. The proximity of her vanishing to the areas where the Zodiac Killer committed his crimes, coupled with the ominous letter, raised suspicions of a possible connection. However, no concrete evidence has ever linked the two cases. The years turned into decades, and Donna Lass's case gradually faded from the headlines. But it was never forgotten by those who lived in South Lake Tahoe and by true crime enthusiasts who were drawn to the eerie enigma. Despite the passage of time, many questions remain. Was Donna Lass truly a victim of the Zodiac Killer? Or was her disappearance the result of a different, equally sinister force? Why did her belongings end up neatly arranged in her office, as if she had voluntarily left them there? Donna's family, especially her brother Richard Lass, has never given up hope of finding answers. Over the years, they have continued to search for clues and bring attention to her case in the hopes of unraveling the mystery that has haunted them for decades. Donna Lass's disappearance is a chilling testament to the fact that sometimes evil deeds are perpetrated in the most unsuspecting places. South Lake Tahoe, once known for its beauty and tranquility, now carries the shadow of this unsolved mystery, a stark reminder that some secrets may never be revealed, and some disappearances may remain forever unexplained. It was a sunny afternoon on November 22, 1963, in Dallas, Texas. The streets were lined with eager onlookers, all hoping to catch a glimpse of President John Fitzgerald Kennedy during his motorcade through the city. In the midst of the jubilant crowds, an anonymous caller's voice cracked through the phone lines, foretelling the impending doom. The eerie phone call, which had been placed to a British journalist, would become one of the most mysterious and unsettling aspects of the Kennedy assassination. The journalist, a seasoned professional, was working in London when he received the anonymous call. A woman with a European accent was on the line, urgently delivering a dire warning. She claimed to have information about a plot to assassinate President Kennedy and implored the journalist to contact the American embassy immediately. The anonymous caller stated that they wanted to kill Kennedy and revealed chilling details, including the fact that the president would be shot from an office building with a high-powered rifle. Strangely, this call was received just a few minutes before the shots rang out in Dealey Plaza. In a matter of moments, the vibrant atmosphere of the motorcade transformed into a scene of chaos and disbelief as President Kennedy was struck by an assassin's bullets. The world watched in horror as the president's car rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital, but it was already too late. John Fitzgerald Kennedy had succumbed to his injuries and the nation was plunged into mourning. The British journalist was deeply disturbed by the call and took the information seriously. He immediately reached out to the American embassy in London, attempting to relay the ominous warning he had received. However, his efforts were met with skepticism. The U.S. officials he spoke to were unable to confirm the legitimacy of the threat, and the anonymous caller's identity remained a mystery. In the tumultuous aftermath of the assassination, the British journalist shared the story of the anonymous caller and her chilling prediction with the American authorities. His account was taken seriously, but despite thorough investigations, the identity of the caller could not be established. Many questions lingered. Who was she, and how did she have such specific knowledge of the assassination plot? Theories and speculations surrounding the mysterious caller abound. One theory suggests that she was a Soviet agent, possibly linked to the KGB or other intelligence agencies. At the height of the Cold War, the notion that foreign operatives might have had knowledge of the plot is not implausible. However, the question of how the caller acquired such specific details remains unanswered. Another theory posits that the anonymous caller may have been part of a larger conspiracy or intelligence operation. Some believe that she could have been acting as a messenger, attempting to prevent the assassination. If this were the case, her failure to avert the tragedy adds an even more haunting dimension to the story. The most unsettling theory of all is that the call was a deliberate hoax, intended to create confusion and divert attention from the real conspirators. This would mean that the anonymous caller was merely a pawn in a larger, more sinister plot. One aspect of the story remains undeniable: the eerie accuracy of the caller's prediction. Her description of the method and location of the attack was chillingly precise. In the decades that followed, the phone call continued to fuel conspiracy theories and intrigue. While the identity of the anonymous caller remains a mystery, her unsettling premonition is forever etched in history. The Kennedy assassination, with its layers of conspiracy and uncertainty, serves as a reminder that the past can harbor secrets that may never be fully disclosed. As time marches on, the anonymous caller's voice from the past lingers as a haunting enigma, challenging our understanding of one of the most significant events in American history. But the story doesn't end there. Just as the nation grappled with the shock and grief of President Kennedy's assassination, another chapter of this unsettling narrative was unfolding. Lee Harvey Oswald, the man arrested and charged with the murder of the president, added a layer of complexity to the already perplexing tragedy. Lee Harvey Oswald's arrest took place shortly after the assassination. He was captured at the Texas Theater in the Oak Cliff neighborhood of Dallas, where he had taken refuge. Oswald was initially arrested for the murder of a Dallas police officer, J.D. Tippit, who had approached him in a routine encounter. The arrest of Lee Harvey Oswald marked the beginning of a new phase in the investigation. Oswald's alleged involvement in both the murder of the president and the shooting of Officer Tippit fueled speculation about a larger conspiracy. He was a complex figure with a history of political activism and defected to the Soviet Union before returning to the United States. Oswald's trial, however, never took place. Just 2 days after his arrest while in police custody, Oswald was shot and killed by nightclub owner Jack Ruby. The shocking murder of Oswald in a crowded police station added another layer of intrigue and controversy to the Kennedy assassination. The events surrounding Oswald's arrest and subsequent murder have been the subject of intense scrutiny and numerous conspiracy theories. Some believe that Oswald was a lone assassin, while others argue that he was part of a larger conspiracy. The abrupt end of his life before he could stand trial has fueled speculation and debate. The unresolved questions surrounding the Kennedy assassination, the anonymous caller's premonition, and Lee Harvey Oswald's arrest and murder have made this tragic event one of the most enduring mysteries in American history. As the years pass, the shadow of the past continues to cast doubt and uncertainty on the official accounts, leaving us with unsettling questions that may never be fully answered. In the end, the story of the Kennedy assassination remains a haunting enigma, a complex web of conspiracy and intrigue, and a reminder that some secrets may never be fully revealed. In 2007, a 16-year-old girl named Courtney Kuykendall randomly began receiving texts from her friends from her home in Fircrest, Washington. Upon looking at these texts, she's met with messages from her friends, asking her why they had gotten text messages from her simply saying gay. Now, one could be mistaken for thinking it was a dumb, immature prank on Courtney's part. Except for one problem: she did not send those texts, at least not herself. Mildly confused at what they were talking about, she brushed it off and thought nothing of it. Neither she or anyone else involved could have imagined how far these strange occurrences were about to get. After the texts, a series of phone calls from someone with a scratchy voice started coming from a number that read restricted. The calls would describe what the family was doing at that moment, and even what they were wearing. Kuykendall's neighbor, Andrea McKay, who said that she was also a victim of the restricted's harassment, claims that one day, when she was cutting limes in her kitchen, a mysterious call came through, and the voice on the other end told her that it preferred lemons. The initial wave of phone weirdness prompted the families to immediately contact the police. They showed the cops how their phones would send text messages on their own, turn themselves on, and how the ringtones would appear to change themselves. But it wasn't until the phone calls started coming in that the police were able to actually do anything. The Fircrest police attempted to trace the calls, but they just went back to the family's own phones. The weird part about it was that this would happen even when their phones were turned off. The calls from the scratchy voice escalated from the level of juvenile pranks to serious threats within a short period of time. Heather Kuykendall claimed, "They say you're going to die. We hate you. We're going to murder you." The family also reported that calls would come at all hours, threatening to murder everyone that they knew, including their pets. The most terrifying call came during the day to the McKays, another family being harassed by the restricted. They claimed that while their kids were in school, the voice called and told them that there was going to be a school shooting. The families all claimed that after making a series of death threats against them, the restricted's calls seemed to exist solely to make them paranoid. Calls would come in from the mysterious person, telling them what they were wearing and what they were doing. The family claimed that some of the calls didn't feature the scratchy voice at all, but rather a playback of a private conversation between family members. One call allegedly featured a recording of a conversation between one of the families and a detective. The Kuykendalls said they tried to end the harassment by changing out phones and switching their numbers, but the calls kept coming. All over the country, law enforcement was still warming up to the idea of cybercrime in 2007. The fact that the Fircrest PD approached this case with the sincerity that it did is fascinating. At the time of the case, the police told ABC News that if the caller was actually harassing the family and not conducting an elaborate hoax, the person was actually violating multiple federal laws. However, the Fircrest PD admitted that they were in the weeds in terms of actual investigation. Fircrest Police Chief John Cheeseman, who claimed to have known the Kuykendalls prior to the calls, said, "We're almost dumbfounded. We've never seen anything like this." The local police reached out to the Department of Homeland Security, and they even looked at Courtney Kuykendall as a suspect. A Fircrest detective noted, "At this point, we aren't saying it's someone inside the family, but it's someone that is close enough to them to know this much about them. It seems like it's someone who is tied into the group, a family member, a friend, or an enemy," which is a very roundabout way of saying that the caller is a person who knows the people they're calling. After dealing with a lengthy police investigation, swapping out phones, and installing a security system in their home, surely the Kuykendalls must have figured out who was stalking them, right? As far as details go on the case, there was never a confession made, no suspects or persons of interests, and the last update was that the calls stopped as soon as the FBI got involved. For a case with such an enticing news piece as this was presented to the media, the fact that there was never much of a follow-up or even an official conclusion makes it confusing to even determine if it ever happened at all.